Welcome to my first ever YouTube video where I'm going to be first and foremost reviewing Barcelona matches, but also looking to review the best games that we've seen in Europe in the given weekend. So for this one, we've got Barcelona versus Mallorca. Madrid plays on Tuesday, so I won't be covering them in this video. But we also do have Manchester City versus Wolves. We have opening day in Liverpool versus Bournemouth. We'll also be talking about Manchester United versus Arsenal. So, the first game we'll talk about is Mallorca versus Barcelona, and let's just take a look at the lineups real quick. Interestingly enough, Barcelona did have a couple surprises. We did see Eric Garcia in the lineup ahead of Koundé. We also saw Fermin Lopez beat Olmo in the starting number 10 spot. So, Barcelona lined up with John Garcia, Eric Garcia at right back, Ronald Araujo at center back, Cubarsí at center back, Balde at left back, Pedri and De Jong in the double pivot, Lamine at right wing, Fermin at the 10 like I previously mentioned, Rafinha at left wing, and Ferran as the striker. Mallorca lined up with Leo Roman, who, if y'all remember what this man did to us last season, I was traumatized by the man. This man had each and every other save. We gave this man a career. All right. Mojica, who got terrorized by Lamine there for a good minute. Raillo, who Raillo is the man of the hour. Barcelona's second goal came from a very strange play where Raillo heads the ball out and he kind of ends up falling back down onto the ground. We'll talk more about that later. Valiant at center back, Morey at right back. The double pivot in Sanchez and Morlanes, who Morlanes received a red card. Darder at left wing, Pablo Torre, our very own Pablo Torre at the 10, Asano at right wing, and Murici, who also saw the red card in this game. Now, as far as the game is itself, I think there's two components that we could talk about. We could talk about the sporting aspect, and then we could talk about the controversial plays more alongside. So I guess I'll go a bit in chronological order. Barca started the game off hot, quite honestly. I liked what I saw. It seemed like we hadn't skipped a beat. Lamine had that swagger, had the number 10 on him, looked good. The whole team looked good. The double pivot, typical Hansi Flick ball at Barcelona. We were flying. And that kind of culminated in Rafinha getting his first goal. Rafinha, without skipping a beat, looking the same and as good as he did as last year, making it 1-0 for Barcelona. And before this, right off the bat, Lamine started going at Mojica. He lit him up for those first 20 to 30 minutes because what this man was doing to Mojica was remarkable. I think he had I didn't even see how the Meg happened, but he had 2 or 3 plays where he was just direct going at him 1v1. And he did his thing. He did his big one, and I was hyped. He seems, Lamine is an interesting case, right? Because he's already established himself in world football at 17 years old, but he's also developing physically. And I don't know if it's you guys, but he's taller. He seems faster. He seems like he has more power to him. His powertrain seems to allow him to dribble with more force. His change of direction, he looks a bit more agile. And he's not even settled into his adult physique yet. So I'm excited to see Lamine at his peak, with his peak physique, and see what all is in store for us as Barca fans, because I'm looking forward to seeing him, and he lit it up today. Subsequently, though, this is when the game got weird. This is by far the weirdest game I have seen, because I don't know what got into Raillo, but off of that play there, Lamine comes in, and he's chopping in, and he takes a shot, and Raillo, I don't know if he purposely clears it with his head, but when Lamine shoots it, it hits Raillo in the head, and the ball pops up, and then he falls back down. And as we all know, head injuries tend to lead to the game being stopped. But above all else, you play to the whistle. And what does that mean? You play to the whistle. And if you're playing to the whistle, that's something that's taught at all levels. And that's exactly what Barcelona did. Barcelona played to the whistle, and Ferran, the play continues a bit awkwardly at first because the referee takes his whistle and puts it in his mouth, but doesn't quite end up stopping the game. And Barca don't clear it out. They play to the whistle. The Mallorca defenders keep defending, and the ball bounces back to Ferran. Ferran slams it upper 90. And I think the ref gets caught up here in the consequences of his own decisions, because personally, I think the game should have been stopped. But again, we're talking about a situation where it's not like Raillo went and hit heads with like another player, you know? It was a clearance that he had made. It was a ball that he received to the head, and I guess the damage could have been minimal because it was coming off of a shot. But again, the typical protocol is the referee would have to stop the game. But in this case, I think the referee wanted to see how the game played out. And if Barca didn't end up scoring, I think he would have eventually blown the whistle. But particularly enough, in this situation, he found himself in an uncomfortable spot where he didn't blow the whistle, but he did bring it up to his mouth, never whistles, and Barca scores. And I think he's forced to call it because the rules of the game are you play to the whistle. And if he hadn't called the game and he hadn't blown his whistle, there's nothing to stop. And I think that's just unfortunate for Mallorca. I think if I was a Mallorca fan, I'd be upset at that. And there's not really much to say else. And that was just an odd way. And Barca found themselves up 2-0 after that. And then shortly after that, things just continued to get even weirder, because in that whole like scuffle where the Mallorca players are reclaiming at the ref, they're like, yo, what's going on with this? Morlanes finds himself getting a yellow due to protesting. And shortly thereafter, Lamine has a play where Lamine's again on fire, on demon mode, on demon time, taking one player, taking two, chopping in, and Morlanes chops him and receives his second yellow. And after the first yellow that he had already seen, Morlanes finds himself with the second yellow and getting a red card shortly after the Rayo incident that led to Barca's 2-0. And with that, Mallorca found themselves 2-0 down with a player down, and the game just took a very interesting dynamic from there, because Mallorca get played on a through ball and Murici goes at John Garcia, who was at the edge of the box, so he wasn't sure if he was gonna punch it out or like just head it out, ends up going with the header, and Murici comes and sticks his cleats in John Garcia's face. If you saw John Garcia's face afterwards, his whole neck, like cheekbone area was bruised up because Murici had a bit of a head loss there. No player can lift his foot up 6 feet in the air and make contact with someone's face and expect to stay. And unfortunately, that was kind of the end of the game, because Murici got a red card. Mallorca are 2 players down, and it's just the game is hard to take serious, because Barcelona, you're up 2-0, you're up 2 players, and it's hard to maintain that same intensity that you would under normal circumstances. I think that the players innately, subconsciously, there's a relaxation component. You know, it's the first game, it's the opener, and it's just hard to maintain that same intensity. Mallorca played in a very deep low block, looking to kind of exploit the wings in a solid, 4-4 that they lined up with. And that's kind of the end. Barca went on cruise control, and this is something that I did not like at all. I didn't like that Barcelona went on cruise control for this game, because, I don't know, the best way to respect an opponent is to score goals on them. And I feel like Barcelona just kind of took a step back, and we didn't punish them. We didn't capitalize on it. And I don't know. I don't like the 2-0, because let's just say for whatever reason you get scored on and the game enters a weird dynamic in that 2v1 situation where we're only up by a goal. But ultimately, we saw the game through, and probably I would say the ugliest part of that was, for me, the huge relaxation that we had. I don't know, like Rafinha and Lamine could have gone ahead and stat padded and get your goals, get your assists in, but I just didn't like that we didn't have that ruthlessness to us. And Flick made a note of that in the post-game press conference, and I think I fully agree with him. I love the mentality, because we need to be ruthless. If we're up 2 men and up 2-0 at halftime, this game needed to end like 5-6-0, honestly. But it is what it is. Lamine found himself in a bit of a scuffle there towards the end of the game, and he found himself with a great goal once again, cutting in, chopping in, and with that signature kind of finesse shot into the second post, screamer, shushed the crowd, did his little king celebration, because that's what he is. And if anyone's got a problem with it, man, take that. I don't know what you want me to say. Like he said, the winner does what he wants, and when you win, you do what you want. You celebrate however you want. What is there to say? This guy is amazing. and I'm just excited to see him for another season with us. For Lamine, that's a goal and an assist. Ferran, also a goal. Rafinha found himself with the goal. I like that we're starting off hot. I like the intensity we saw, but I will say that probably the worst part of that was kind of the way the game unfolded, because, you know, it's not normal circumstances of the game, and the players aren't going to take it as such, and this isn't a circumstance that's going to appear too much. So I don't know. To me, it felt like it kind of ruined the game a bit, which kind of made me upset, because I was hopefully wanting to see like Barcelona thrive in a 90-minute scenario, 11v11. But it is what it is. Probably the strangest opening day game I've seen for Barcelona in a long time, but ultimately happy that we got the win. I thought Eddie Garcia performed very well at right back, especially given the surprise. And, you know, Fleek said Eddie Garcia performed well in preseason. And if this just goes to show, everyone better stay sharp. We better stay sharp, because whoever doesn't stay sharp, there's plenty of people on the bench looking to come on, looking to take your starting spot. And yeah, Dani Olmo came on, Jofre Torrens came on, Gavi came on, Marcus Rashford came on, and so did Koundé. I thought Fermin had an okay game. I didn't think it was the best, especially when you find yourself in these circumstances. Fermin is very much a vertical player that loves to drive the counter-attack and speed up the gameplay. But Olmo is more of a magician, more of a technician that slows the pace of the game down. He's able to find spaces in tight spaces, and he's able to kind of just give us more breathing room with his ability to protect the ball, link up with Lamine, link up with Ferran, link up with Rafinha, and with the midfield. And I think Olmo was kind of better suited for the way this game was unfolding. And I think that's why he came on so early. Marcus Rashford came on. I was really excited to see Marcus Rashford. I also didn't think he was going to start. But when he came on, you know, it's a tough scenario. You're finding yourself against a team that has a severe low block, and you're not going to have a lot of space. Marcus Rashford is a guy that thrives off of space in behind the defenses, and ultimately he wasn't going to find any this game, and that's kind of what ended up happening. I thought he played, you know, all right. He did have a couple opportunities where he took the ball and the ball just kind of bounced off of him or bounced off the defender whenever he'd attempt his dribbles, but I don't think this was the best scenario to see Rashford. Not much to comment on this game. It was just a bit freakish, honestly. I hadn't seen one unfold like that, but I'm excited for what's next in store for Barcelona. I liked what we saw early on in the game, and I'm hoping that we can continue on that same trend along the same lines. All right, moving on, let's talk about Manchester United versus Arsenal. Probably the most interesting game that we saw in the Premier League this weekend. And let's go ahead and take a look at the lineups firstly. Let's start with the locals. Manchester United. Bayindir at goalkeeper. Back three, typical Ruben Amorim fashion. Luke Shaw at left back. De Ligt at center back. And Lenny Yoro at right back. Diogo Dalot at right wing back, Dorgu at left wing back, Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro in that double pivot. On the left hand side as the left number 10, Cunha. On the right hand side as the right number 10, Mbeumo. And we saw Mason Mount kind of operating in that kind of hybrid false nine-ish role for Manchester United. For Manchester United, Ahmad came on, had a very good cameo. Ugarte came on. Stinky. This brother here, I love Ugarte, but the guy's IQ is elsewhere. Sesko came on off the bench, also didn't have too much of an influence or opportunity to showcase kind of his striker abilities, and Harry Maguire also came on. On the flip hand side, we had Arsenal. Arsenal lined up with a bit of a surprising lineup. Raya in net, Ben White at right back, Saliba and Gabriel as center backs, Calafiori at left back, who ended up scoring the one and only goal for this match. The double pivot for Arsenal, Subimendi, Declan Rice, Odegaard at the 10, right wing Saka, Gyökeres, who had a howler of a game. Terrible performance by Gyökeres, honestly. And Martinelli, who also did not have the best of days. From the bench, we had Kai Havertz come on, Noni Madueke, who just came on to get torched by Ahmad, Julian Timber, who played very well, Maya Lewis Kelly, who was a bit quiet, and Mikel Merino. And I made a TikTok about this, and I said, this game is going to make me apologize to myself for predicting Arsenal to win the Premier League, because let's just take a look at some of these top stats. Let's see here, because this needs to be called out. 39% possession for Arsenal compared to Manchester United's 61. 22 total shots for Manchester United compared to Arsenal's 9. 7 shots on target for Manchester United compared to Arsenal's 3. 1 big chance created for Arsenal, which was off that corner kick. And yeah, this is an Arsenal side that's meant to contend, right? And on the flip hand side, we have a Manchester United side that just finished 15th. 15th. And they've been the laughingstock of the Premier League along with Tottenham. And they're coming off one of their worst, they're in their worst era. And I will say, I'll be the first to admit that yes, Manchester United and their issues last season were not because of how they performed against the Big Six. Because against the Big Six, they'd always turn up. There's something about it. They step up to the plate and they show up and they show off. You know, there's a bit of a rivalry there with Arsenal historically, and it's an opportunity. They know that all eyes are on them, and it's an opportunity for them to show out. Obviously, it's the league opener. There's that to take into consideration as well. They're going to try hard. They have a point to prove, and they're looking to turn around their season, and they're also at home, and they want to show out for the home fans. But Arsenal, this is unacceptable. You're a title contending side. And for Manchester United to have dominated you the way that they did is just unacceptable for me. I tend to be a Premier League neutral. Especially given how the season unfolds, I take and pick my favorites. Sometimes it's Arsenal, sometimes it's United, sometimes it's Liverpool. I'm a neutral. But above all else, I'm a football purist. And I know that has a negative connotation. But I like watching good football. I like watching good play. I like seeing ball possession. I like seeing chances. I like wingers that take on their mans and don't cut back and pass back. I like number 10s that hide the ball, protect the ball, and treat it how the ball is meant to be protected. I do not like mid blocks. I do not like low blocks. You cannot be intending to be the best team in the world in what's arguably many consider to be the best league in the world and play the way that you did. This is unacceptable. This is disgusting. And I think that this isn't a new trend or a one-off game for Arsenal. Arsenal tend to do this. And I don't think that Arsenal needs to be playing this way. Arteta, I really enjoyed Arteta's season whenever Arsenal bottled the league heavily that year. I think that's the best bit of gameplay that I've seen from Arsenal, quite honestly. I loved what I saw from Arsenal that year because it was a very joyous and happy team that had wingers that would go at their man, but they did have defensive liabilities. And what has Arsenal done to kind of address these issues? They've become very pragmatic and very practical and very robotic. And the way they've been able to mitigate a lot of their defensive issues that they found themselves is by being such a condensed and compressed low block and mid block that takes very little risk. And it seems as if even in the modern game today, taking risks is almost seen as very bad because any balls that are lost ultimately result in you getting countered and potentially scored on. And I just think that this Arsenal team, I don't know. I have a standard for big club teams. And if you're looking to take that extra step to start winning titles, win potentially a Champions League, win a Premier League, you cannot play like this. This is disgusting. I'm sorry, but I don't condone this. I need to see good football. You have the likes of Declan Rice, you have the likes of Zubimendi, and you have the likes of Odegaard. What are you doing getting ragdolled by that Manchester United midfield? Excuse you? What are you doing sitting in a low block like that? Absolutely not. You cannot. This is Arsenal who we're talking about. If you intend to contend for the Premier League, you cannot put on this display. And it's shocking to me because this Manchester United side has a multitude of issues. And yes, their locals are playing at home. They're going to try hard. But so what? You're Arsenal. And with the amount that you've invested, you can't quite possibly think that this is the blueprint to follow that will lead you to a Premier League title. I think Arteta has taken a very risk-adverse approach to his style in coaching, which has been a complete drop-off to what he's done previously. And I'm not a fan. I'm sorry, but I'm not a fan. On the flip side, though, let's talk about Manchester United. Manchester United played very well. And like I said at the beginning, I think Manchester United can walk away with their head held high. I think Amorim, there was a lot of discourse before the start of the season whether Amorim should stay or not. And he did not have a summer with backing. And ultimately, even though it was a tough position to be in, ending in 15th place, losing the Europa League final in a catastrophic fashion, missing out on European competitions, I think that this team showed something to me that I think Manchester United fans can look forward to. I thought Cunha played a great game, one hell of a game, taking on his men, operating in those half spaces. And on the other side, I thought Mbeumo also played very well. I think his association with Diogo Dalot wasn't as good as it was with Ahmad. I think Ahmad and Mbeumo were a problem on that side when Ahmad did come on. However, I do think this team needs a bit of more games under their belt together because a lot of the times I would find Mbeumo and Ahmad kind of bumping into each other. There was a play where I think it was Mbeumo. He was cutting in, and being in that half space, and Ahmad kind of found himself moving internally as well, and they ended up bumping into each other. Ahmad not sure if Mbeumo was giving him the ball or not, gave it a touch, and just ultimately kind of put that occasion to waste. But I liked what I saw, especially I think the blueprint is there. I think the rumors with Baleba are ongoing. I don't know if they'll be able to get him this season, but I did not like what I saw from Casemiro or Ugarte. Between both of them, I liked what I saw from Casemiro a whole lot more. Ugarte just has some like loose screw moments, not even loose screw, like just airhead moments where I think Arsenal almost scored after he gave a horrible pass back and handed it over. I don't know if it was to Odegaard that he gave the ball to or Havertz, which was pretty bad. He isn't able to give the fluidity that the play needs, especially when moving forward as well. He's more of a workhorse that really his only job on the pitch should be to win the ball back and give it to Bruno Fernandes, who's next to him. But if Manchester United are able to get their hands on Baleba, I think this is a problem. This team is set. This team is good. I definitely think Ahmad is definitely going to be starting at right back, but I can see why Amorim might have opted for Diogo Dalot, especially given the game against Arsenal, maybe wanting to opt for a bit more defensive security. But when Ahmad came on, he performed wonderfully there at the right wing back, and I think he'll probably end up cementing himself throughout the season there as his starting spot. But I think there's a lot to see there. There's a lot of positives defensively. I also thought Manchester United were very solid. I liked what I saw from De Ligt. I liked what I saw from Lenny Yoro. Very proper, very poised, playing no nonsense, not trying to be too tricky, playing out the back, and just, I don't know, a sense of security that this team didn't have in previous years, which is a strange thing to say for a club the stature of Manchester United, but yeah, I honestly thought they played well. I think there's a blueprint there. I think Amorim has proven himself previously at Sporting. I don't think you achieve what he did in that Portuguese league without being a good coach. And I think Amorim has a plan, and I think he's going to be able to deploy it well. Personally, I was not a fan of seeing Mason Mount there operating as kind of that false nine centralist role, or the fluid rotation that was ongoing between Cunha and Mason Mount for who would play in that kind of like striker central role. But I think Sesko was going to be a big piece to see if this Manchester United can finally get it together and be able to put just balls in the back of the net, because that was Manchester United's biggest issue last year, not being able to score. And Sesko's going to have to be their guy. They're going to have to enable him. They're going to have to provide him service for him to be able to score. Today he came on, he looked rusty, he didn't look good at all. Funny enough, both of the notable striker signings came on and just weren't able to do much. He came on, had maybe one or two link-up plays, but nothing notable. But I don't know. I think if you're a Manchester United fan, you could see this performance. Yeah, you might not have won, and it might be frustrating, especially given the momentum that you guys are carrying from last season. But I see a blueprint, I see an identity, and I see what this is heading towards. On the flip side, for Arsenal, I don't like what I saw. I didn't like what I saw at all. And I'm not too sure where this is headed for them. But I really do hope that they're able to kind of polish it up and provide better football because they have the players and the elements to do so. Now let's go over to the other side of Manchester. Manchester City, although they did play away in Wolverhampton, they defeated Wolves 4-0 in their Premier League opener. And let's get right into the lineup. We had Trafford in goal. We had Rico Lewis at right back, who bagged himself an assist. We had John Stones and Ruben Diaz at center back. We had Ait Nouri at left back. In the double pivot, we had Reinders and Nico Gonzalez. And I'd like to take a moment to give a shout out to Reinders. Reinders put on a display this opening day, and honestly, he was entertaining to watch. I like watching good football. I like watching ballers. I like watching ballers do what they do best, and I like a player that can take the game by the scruff of the neck, whether it's by scoring, whether it's passing, whether it's by hustling, whether it's facilitating gameplay, whether it's linking your midfield to the final third. That man did it all this game, and I was honestly quite impressed. In the number 10 slot, we had Bernardo Silva. On the right-hand side, Oscar Bob bagged himself an assist, played very well, and Mr. Inevitable, who else? Erling Haaland scored himself a brace, and Doku played on the left-hand side. And let's take a look at who came in for them as well. Mateus Nunes came on, so did Nico O'Reilly. Omar Marmoush also came on, and Ryan Cherky, I'll be real. Part of the reason why I was so eager and excited to watch Man City on opening day was to see Ryan Cherky, and to my surprise, he was up benched. And honestly, I probably saw it coming. There's a hierarchy, and he probably wanted to start Bernardo Silva over him, just, out of respect. But I think Cherky is bound to make himself in the starting spot. I don't know if it'll be for Oscar Bob on the right-hand side or if it'll be in the number 10 position. But I think inevitably we saw the quality that he has when he came on. And honestly, the streets just wanted to see Reinders, Marmoush, and Cherky play together. Was that too much to ask? No, it wasn't. Pep delivered, and he fed us, and we watched good football. To start the game off, I think this game proved where City's kind of at. And it showed that City is still quite vulnerable in their defensive half. Very early on, Wolves kept finding themselves with opportunities to score and getting caught on what I would like to think are offside traps. Either way, they're getting caught offsides with seeming there's that imminent threat of their danger with the runs in behind Rico Lewis and Ait Nouri, especially down Nouri's side. Maybe he might have been a bit nervous playing against his former club. I don't know, but he had a poor game to begin with, I think, but he later settled into his role. Ultimately, the backline was still able to keep a clean sheet, but you saw Wolves being able to break them down and penetrate them down the flanks. And I don't know. I think a team that has greater talent than Wolves probably does some damage to City. But on the flip side, for Man City, we saw that they are no joke when it comes to the attack. Haaland is still the best striker in the world. Oscar Bob proved to show that he's a great academy product. Last year, there was a lot of momentum coming up in the preseason until he tore his ACL. And I think every City fan was excited to see him play. And honestly, he looked very, very good out there. Doku, I think Doku to me reeks of like an Adama Traore style of player, where he has the dribbling, he has the ability to maneuver, he's direct, he goes at his fullback, but his end product is just so bad. His decision making, his IQ, he's like, sometimes I feel like he's running like a headless chicken, like he doesn't pick up his head and pick a pass and drill the ball to the right man when he's called to do so. But I think this is exciting. I think for Man City fans, I think you have a lot to look forward to, because compared to what we saw last season, this was much better. Much, much better. And I think the highlight of this game for sure is Reinders. what we saw from Reinders was great. Nothing short of extraordinary, in my opinion. Like I said, early on in the first half, I think that the game was a bit disputed. Everyone's kind of settling into the game plan, kind of feeling each other out. Wolves, like I said, were kind of getting caught off sides, but still had that imminent threat. But ultimately, it was Man City that ended up getting the game by the scruff of the neck, as particularly by the hand of Reinders. Reinders, for the first goal, played a beautiful chip over the back line to play Enrico Lewis, who sweated it over to Haaland, who scored the first goal for Man City in the Premier League. Beautiful play by Reinders. Honestly, that little dink pass was just amazing. And Rico Lewis did his job properly, bagged himself a little assist. And from then on, I'd say it was all Man City. Man City kept pushing Wolves. Eventually, they were able to set them back on a low block and just continue to break them down. And even when Wolves did end up trying to get a little bit brave and step up in their lines and, go high up and try to press City, ultimately they were caught off a counterattack where Oscar Bob was fed the ball almost at half field, and with a beautiful touch, he got rid of pressure, laid the ball over to Reinders, and Reinders, who took the ball, carried the ball forward, and slotted the ball in the back of the net, and sealing the deal just before the half for 2-0 over to City, who looked amazing at this point. At this point, I think everyone was freaking out. A Reinders goal, a Reinders assist, and some people were just wondering, man, imagine once Rodri gets into this, how would he fit into this system? City still have plenty of depth on the bench. There's still Cherky to incorporate into this team, but then the sensations, especially given how City played last year, were much, much better. Then came the second half. In the second half, it was more of the same. Kind of Wolves started off again a little bit more brave, wanting to set the tone and kind of get a goal back and make it 2-1 and kind of put the game in a dangerous position. But ultimately, the man of the hour, who else yet again, Erling Haaland strikes again, made it 3-0 for City, and pretty much wrapped the game up. Once the game was 3-0, Wolves kind of accepted, and I think Wolves kind of accepted defeat after Haaland scored the 3-0, again coming yet again from an assist by Reinders. And from then on, there were some subs that came on. We got to see Ryan Cherky coming on around the 70th minute. We got to see Marmoush come on. And we just got to see the depth that Man City has in the attacking half. Honestly, given what I saw today, I think if Man City land Rodrigo, I think it's going to be a problem. That's going to be serious issues, and it'll make him a candidate to win the league, in my opinion, because adding that level of talent to that left-hand side and being able to mesh that well with Reinders, Cherky, Haaland, man, I think it'd be scary hours in the Premier League, and the league would get put on notice. So I think that's a signing that City must and should make, but we'll see how they close out the window. I also think that they need to look, even though he assisted today and looked decently well, I think there's still a bit of a gap at the right back position. I don't think Rico Lewis and Nunez are going to cut it for Man City. I don't know if they're going to get that Livramento deal done. I also don't know if they've showed any interest in Dumfries or anyone else, maybe a more defensive profile. But I think, given what I saw today, I think the two areas of improvement that Man City do have would be at the right back position, especially particularly on the defensive end, because Rico Lewis goes forward quite well, and also that left hand side, because Marmoush can play there, he can operate there really well. But I think Guardiola opted for Doku because he wanted that 1v1 action. He wanted someone that would direct and would attack their fullback. But I think Rodrigo can do that in a much more efficient manner and have an IQ and production on the final third with a finished product where he makes the right decision, where he crosses the ball to the right person, and he finishes the play properly, because I think Doku struggles to do so. And yeah, I think Man City, you have to be happy with this result and hopeful to see what's in store. And I think if you guys land that left winger spot with Rodrigo, I think there's serious issues that the rest of the Premier League is going to face with them. And I've got a confession to make. I was going to talk about the Chelsea game. I wasn't going to be able to see it live. I was going to watch it recorded. And then after seeing 0-0 and hearing some of the comments of what that first half was like, I decided to, choose me, choose myself, show myself self-compassion, self-love, and not do that to myself. Given that it seemed like it was a disgusting 0-0 where nothing occurred, especially in the first half. A proper boring showdown. So I opted to see the highlights. Nothing much to say besides that Eze goal that was disallowed. I think that's the first time I see something of that nature. I didn't know that was a rule starting in 2019 that a player of the opposing team that's on the wall cannot be within 1 meter. And Gehi kind of shifted, I don't know who that was, that he shifted over and got too close to the wall, therefore counting it as a foul and disallowing Eze's goal. That was probably the biggest piece of action that we saw. I saw Estevao and Andrés Santos kind of miss a couple of chances that they had. I'm looking forward to seeing Chelsea, and I hope they're able to polish it up. I wasn't able to catch the game this weekend. I'll probably be keeping an eye on them because I want to watch Cole Palmer. I want to watch Enzo Fernandez. I want to see Gittins. I think, given what we saw from Chelsea in the Club World Cup, I think they have an interesting squad. I do think that they have to settle their center back situation. I think Gehi's right there. They literally have him right in front, but it looks like he's might land to Liverpool. So I think Chelsea need to kind of cement their center back pairing because I don't think it's enough to get them to where they want to go, which is to win titles. I think this Chelsea side is built for knockout football. Particularly, we saw how they performed at the Club World Cup, and I just don't know if this squad will have the consistency to week in and week out be able to deliver results, especially given kind of their defensive weaknesses. And we'll see how their attack behaves. It was quite stale today, but I do think João Pedro is going to have himself a good season. I think Cole Palmer is going to do his thing again, and I think with Pedro Neto and Gittins, I think Chelsea have really good wingers in them. And with Estevao and Andrés Santos coming off the bench, I think they have a multitude of wingers and attackers. And there's rumors that Garnacho might head over to Chelsea as well. So we'll see how their season ends up panning out. But I won't talk about it too much just because I wasn't able to watch the game. Another honorable mention that I'll give a shout out to, that a game that I didn't watch entirely, I watched maybe like the last 30-40 minutes of, was the Atletico Madrid versus Espanyol game. A game in which, if you guys don't know, Espanyol defeated Atletico Madrid 2-1 in an epic comeback fashion. The game's at around the 33rd minute. Julian Alvarez scored an absolute banger of a free kick. If you have not seen that free kick, I recommend you pause this video and go watch it because it's that good. Julian Alvarez, once again, being the best player for Atletico Madrid from what I was able to see. And I don't know, Atleti has to get it right this season. Atleti has to get it right this season because they've invested, and the fans are going to, it's been a long time. And I think if anyone has credit in the bank, it's El Cholo Simeone, especially given what he's done for the club. But man, it's 2 summers in a row where you're spending big money. Atleti spent big. They bought Johnny Cardoso. They bought Alex Baena, who came off injured, I believe. They invested on the defense. I don't know. I need to see more from this squad. This game is a typical game that Atleti lets slip by once again. What's the issue here? You've spent big the last 2 summers, and you need to pull something, a Copa del Rey, a Champions League. I don't know if it'll be enough for La Liga because I think the competition is too difficult in Real Madrid and Barcelona, who are very consistent. And you're already starting off on the wrong foot. That doesn't give me confidence in what Atletico has for this season, and I don't know. I don't know how it'll pan out for them because today was, I don't know. It was a borderline like sloppy and like ridiculous what happened today. What happened to Atleti today was just, I don't know. In Spanish, I think the term is called la pechofriarla, choke, bottle. It was just so bad. You're up 1-0 with a spectacular goal by Julian Alvarez, who, I don't know, for whatever reason, I think El Cholo is the only coach that I see that routinely takes off his best player off the pitch. And I don't know, can someone explain that to me why that is? Because no one on that pitch was better than Julian Alvarez. And no one is going to be able to score more goals than he is on that pitch. That's for sure. And he does so routinely. And he comes off, right? He comes off around like the 61st minute. Again, like I told y'all, I think I watched like the last 30 minutes. I had seen the free kick before it went in. And when I turned on, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was me. Maybe it's me. I caused this for Espanyol. Espanyol comes in, and in a very sloppy fashion, Atleti defend a set piece where Espanyol was just able to dink it over into the second post, where Oblak isn't able to come out for it because it's too far for him to reach. And I think the player's Rubio comes in the 73rd minute and makes it 1-1 for Espanyol. And shortly thereafter, maybe 11 minutes later, in the dying minutes of the game, in the 84th minute, comes a goal by Milla, which, if you have not seen that goal, that's probably one of the best header goals I've seen, because the cross comes this way, and the striker's coming in from... He heads towards the opposite direction of where the ball is coming from, and he, like, chips it all across Oblak, and, like, just... I don't know, it takes a weird parabola and enters exactly in the spot where Oblak is unable to reach it. It's a freakish goal, quite frankly, because that type of thing can only happen to Atletico Madrid. And Atletico Madrid is sitting there in shock. Their best player's on the bench, and you have no response. I'm sorry, Sorloth is a good player and all, but it seems like he only turns up against Barcelona. He sees that Barcelona jersey and he smells blood, but I don't know what happens to him in all these other games, because he played poorly. He played quite poorly. And obviously, Atleti found themselves, down 2-1 in the dying minutes of the game. And they tried, lobbing the ball up to Sorloth and seeing and hoping and praying that something happens. But it just didn't. It just didn't. And this can't continue to be the story for Atletico Madrid, honestly, because given the investments that they've made, it's funny. You take a look at their... comment section on the highlight video, and all you see is you spent 200 million for this, 200 million spent for nothing, back-to-back summers with backing for El Cholo. Something has to change. A title has to be delivered, and we'll see if El Cholo is able to come up with a system that's a lot more sustainable throughout the season, because it's tough. They compete in such a fierce competition against Barcelona and Real Madrid, and we saw the way that they got knocked out in Champions League. They gave it their all in that Copa del Rey semifinal against us, and we had to pull heroics to beat them. And in La Liga, they just ended up crumbling. And it's, they were facing all three trophies until the latter stages of the season, and just weren't able to capitalize. And I'm even talking myself out of it, because I'm putting myself into perspective. They do a good job, and it's just an unfortunate situation. But as a club team, you're meant to compete and compete and compete and continue to strive to win. Winning is the name of the game, and trophies. I think Lias from SDS tends to say that trophies is the currency of the game, and Atletico Madrid needs trophies. That's it. I know the competition is fierce. I know the competition is rough, but this is the season for them to deliver. And finally, let's talk about the Liverpool game against Bournemouth. Bournemouth aside, which I'm quite fond of because Andoni Iraola is the coach there. He came from La Liga, and I think I always get excited whenever La Liga coaches are able to kind of showcase their talent, because it shows the level of quality and talent that there is all across the board in La Liga. Whether that's from the coaches and the players, this league is hard. La Liga is difficult, and I think it's drastically underrated, in my opinion. And I'm a fan of this Bournemouth side. And this match was good. This match was played Friday. It was the first game of the Premier League season, and honestly, it did not fail. It did not fail to entertain. It did not fail to give you goals, give you thrillers, give you comebacks, give you a bit of everything. It kind of reminded all of us why we missed the Premier League. And yeah, I think all eyes are on Liverpool. They're the returning champions, and boy, have they made signings. Frimpong, Kirkes, Florian Wirtz. They're still in talks with Isak. You know, there's been a lot of change, and I think I think Liverpool has a lot of pressure given the business that they've done. Ekitike also as well as striker, and there's a lot of changes. It's weird, right? Because Liverpool became champions and their squad had a bit of an overhaul. You've bought a lot of starters. You had big name players like Trent leave the club, you know, and you've had to. I believe they filled him in with good shoes, but you know, there's that leadership aspect. There's that, you know, that association. Trent, Liverpool. There's Luis Diaz is also gone. There's been a lot of changes, and sometimes that can be hard to navigate. And I said this in a TikTok video, and I think it's a bit I think it might be a bit controversial, but I think Slot was riding a bit last year on the inertia that this Liverpool had from the Klopp era. And I think this season we're going to see what this team is all about under Slot, because this is Slot's team. He's made like 5 changes now, and there's a lot of them. And I'm not so sure. I'm a bit skeptical. I'm not too high on Liverpool because I'm a skeptic. I don't know how all of these players are supposed to fit together. Let's go ahead and look at the lineups for this game and how Liverpool lined up. Tike started as striker. He had an assist and a goal. On the left-hand side, you had Gakpo, who had a decent game as well. Wirtz at the 10, Salah at the right wing, McAllister and Szoboszlai in that double pivot. I'm a little bit iffy there on Szoboszlai. If he can do a good job in that double pivot, I'm not so sure. But I think this Liverpool side is all Gravenberch and McAllister. I think Gravenberch is eventually going to make his way back to the starting spot. Kirkis started at left back. Kirkis, who I think had a pretty poor game. I think Semenyo absolutely fried him all game long. And I don't know. I you know, it's a big step up for him. And I think Robertson's shoes are even though Robertson isn't the same player he was a couple years ago, you know, he doesn't have that sense of security, and he doesn't have that leadership, and he doesn't have that confidence just yet, but he's a talented player. He's going to have to settle into the role, and we'll see how that continues to unfold. At the center back pairing, you had Van Dijk and Konate, and at right back, you have Frimpong, who played a good game, in my opinion, as well. And then at goalkeeper, you still got Alisson. As far as Bournemouth goes, Bournemouth lined up with Petrovic in net. You had Smith at right back, Diakite and Senesi at center back, Trafford at left back, Tyler Adams. Come on. Tyler Adams did his thing, y'all. I liked him. I liked what I saw from him. Tavernier and Scott as the 2 center mids. Semenyo, you did your number. You did what you could. This guy balled out. After having an uncomfortable moment that we saw there on the touchlines, for him to respond the way that he did, all credit to him. And Evan Nilsson as striker and Brooks at left wing. Like I said, I think this Liverpool side, you know, they quickly found themselves up 2-0 in the game, and you thought that was over because, you know, firstly, I think Ekitike had a really good game, and he took his chance very well when his first goal, he scored in like the 37th minute, where he's driving and he tries to take a dribble, bounces off the defender, the deflection lands on him, so he beats the defender and slots it past Petrovic and makes it 1-0 over to Liverpool. Anfield hype, the crowd's popping, the crowd's roaring, and you just feel that this is going to be a Liverpool show. Subsequently, after the second half begins, Gakpo has a really, really good game, really good play, where off the left-hand side, he's cutting in, he's chopping, and then he's able to essentially put a putt and slot the ball into the back of the net. And this is kind of when the Bournemouth show started, because you kind of thought Liverpool kind of laxed a little bit, and this is when Semenyo did his big one. He did his number. The first goal came off of a insane counter by Bournemouth, ruthless. Brooks runs it down the line after getting a wonderful by Tyler Adams, who plays it over the top. Brooks gets the ball and then squares it to Semenyo, who makes it 2-1. And not too long after that, maybe in the 76th minute, one of the goals of the season already. I know it's the opener, but this Semenyo gets the ball maybe in like his initial third, initial fourth even maybe, and he just carries the ball forward. And I will say, Konate and Van Dijk were a little bit like sluggish, maybe not as reactive as you'd hope a center back pairing would be when a player is attacking you, and none of them end up picking him up. Van Dijk kind of goes along, and I don't know if it's Scott or Van Nistelrooy who he continues to shadow and kind of takes away that passing lane, but Konate is just terrible. Quite honestly, he doesn't go like Van Dijk doesn't go impress him. Neither does Konate, and Semenyo is just free to carry, and he finishes the goal himself, a solo goal, a wonder goal, and hits him with the knee slide, and all of a sudden you find yourself 2-2 in the game, in a thriller. And, you know, as a Premier League neutral, everyone loves the little underdog story. Who doesn't? And then here's my worst like category, genre of players that I find in games that annoy me. And this might be a little bit of a hater in me, but I despise players like that, you know, were good long ago and then they fall off and then all of a sudden they want to turn up at the worst moment possible. And that's kind of what happened with Liverpool and Chiesa. Chiesa gets subbed on. Chiesa, who had 6 Premier League appearances last year, he gets subbed on and he finds himself with the ball, a deflection that bounces back at the top of the box, and he just drills it into the back of the net in the 88th minute and scores, making it 3-2 for Liverpool. Absolute screamer. And I'm annoyed because Chiesa, you know, I haven't heard the Spaghetti Mafia song since 2021. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? You're ruining the comeback that Bournemouth are handling here. And then all of a sudden, Premier League opener, you want to score a screamer. I don't know. Some people like the Cinderella story. I'm not here for it. But I guess, hey, all credit to him. He took his chance and he got it. And he set Liverpool ahead 3-2. And then another Mr. Inevitable that we're going to have to talk about is Mo Salah. Mo Salah, once again, not skipping a beat. Opening day, Mr. Inevitable, 94th minute. And this time, he added a little variation to it. He's coming off the left-hand side, cutting in, and puts it with his right foot and slots it into the back of the net, making it 4-2 for Liverpool. Liverpool found themselves tied, were able to turn up and win the game whenever they felt the need to do so. I think they didn't look entirely too cohesive for my liking, but I think that's just a bit of rustiness. It's the first game. There's a lot of new pieces, and I think this squad is still going to have to find each other. I think Wirtz was very active, but I don't think he was as influential to the game. You know, at Leverkusen, he was always used to being the main man. At Germany, he gets fed a lot. Him and Musiala are the two creative like outlets that they have. And I think for Liverpool is so hyper dependent on Salah on the attacking third, and in the midfield, you know, you're used to McAllister and Gravenberch that are used to carrying. And I think Wirtz is gonna have to find his role in this team for him to be able to be influential and maybe, you know, even gain that sense of like confidence and make this team his. Because Wirtz to me is a top tier talent. Wirtz is spectacular. Wirtz is amazing, and I think he needs to be that guy for Liverpool for years to come. You don't invest 150 mil and put that price tag on a player just for him to have like a secondary role. No, it needs to be Batman and Batman. There ain't no Batman and Robin here. And the torch is going to be yours, and you need to make this team your own. And honestly, I tuned into this game because I wanted to see Florian Wirtz play. Plenty of people are tuning into this game because we want to see Florian Wirtz play. And, you know, I think he's going to have to find himself in this squad because at Leverkusen, he was kind of used to floating into that, maybe that Gakpo spot in that left half space where he's able to carry the ball inwards and to shoot on his strong foot off his right. But in the 10, you know, the 10, especially in the Premier League, such a physical league, and you're finding yourself with less space, a lot of physicality there. I think Wirtz is going to have to kind of gain a lot of sense of confidence and, you know, kind of have that newfound identity at Liverpool to be able to take games by the scruff of the neck and make them his and, you know, set the tone. And I think that's what I'm expecting out of Wirtz. I think I was a little bit underwhelmed by Liverpool's performance, but obviously it's the first game, and I want to see more because this side, especially given what they've signed, this has to be the best team in the world in my opinion. And I leave this game with this. Liverpool need a left winger. I don't understand why you're going for a striker. You have a proper striker in Ekitike who looks great in my opinion, but I don't understand the need to go for Isak, especially the price tag that's being talked about right now. Because imagine just someone else on that left hand side, a Rodrigo for example, that's looking for a move potentially from Real Madrid. This team would fly. This team would be insane, and everyone would be on notice. But with Isak, you have a very similar player in Ekitike. I don't see the need to throw Ekitike off the left so Isak can play a striker or vice versa. Because I think Salah does his thing on the right-hand side, but I think this Liverpool side is missing a lot of that 1v1 dribbling ability on the flanks, and I think that they need that. I don't understand the need for Isak, but I don't know. To each their own. I don't get paid the big bucks to do what they do, but I just think it's a bit of a misprofiling, and I think a true left winger would be better suited for this side. But hey, who knows? I think there's plenty of time in the summer window, and we'll see what Liverpool was able to pull off because I don't think their bit of business is done. Looks like they're also looking to signing some center backs as well in Mark Gehi, and I think they got Leone, the Italian kid, the 18-year-old Italian kid. And hey, I think this Liverpool squad is going to be entertaining to watch for the rest of the season. They put on a spectacle today, and it'll be interesting to see Slot make this team his own. And that just wraps up the video. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and let me know your comments, what you guys made of these games, and what games you guys want to see me recap in the following video for next weekend. This was fun. I love running my mouth about footy, the game. I love it, and I look forward to making more of these. And yeah, let me know y'all's thoughts. I'm trying to debate. I'm trying to hear all y'all's thoughts, all y'all's unpopular opinions. Where am I right? Where am I wrong? Where do you think you know more than me? All that. I missed the game. It was so much fun just, planning out the weekend around games. I feel like I hadn't done that in such a long time, and seeing the roars of the fans in the stands once again, that Premier League morning feeling, it was great. It was amazing, and I'm excited for the season to come.